important? So why is that distinction important? It's important because it is pivotal to the kind of relationship you eventually get to build with stress. So how does stress work? What is the science behind stress? If I were to ask all of you now, you all would tell me. In fact, let me ask, what is your impression about stress? You can just put it there, you can write it out. It would be nice if you all were to respond, and probably Lady Gwen will read out the answers, right? If I was to ask you what your relationship with stress is, would you say it's a good relationship or it's a bad relationship? Would you say stress is bad for you, or would you say stress is good for you? Or would you say stress is good and bad? So those three. I'll give you like a minute or two to answer. So I'm going to ask again. I'm going to give you three options. So you're going to tell me what your perception of stress is, right? Number one, is it bad? Number two, is it good? And then number three, is it good and bad? So your responses.
I'd like to just chip in to the participants. Please, let's make this as much as exciting. It's exciting, interactive. When it's interactive, it's really quite exciting, and it helps the speaker to feel your pulse, because they understand, what angle to bring all of this into. So please use the comment section or the in-call messages, and let's feel your pulse. Okay. So Anthony Ekata says stress is unnecessary wahala or trouble.
Interesting. Okay.
Nicholas says stress is both good and bad, but mostly bad. Okay. Irat says, well, for me, what I call exercising is considered stress for someone else.
Now, this is interesting. I'm loving this.
Sadol,
thank you for your responses. Continue. Just one more.
Sadol Osiaga says stress is bad. Annabelle says stress is bad for me. I dislike how draining I feel. How drained I feel after going through a stressful day. Theophilos says, Onwamadi says, stress puts me on my toes. And then the elder in the house says, Miko Dipo says, I work better under stress. My goodness, can you imagine?
He works better under stress. Oh,
Christopher says, good. I don't see stress as bad as I see to thrive, as I seem to thrive under stress. Wonderful.
Interesting, very interesting responses. Okay, fine. So that's going to give me a great platform to begin from. All right, now, how does stress work? By the time I explain how stress works, probably you'll be able to determine for yourself if your answer was right or wrong. Okay, now, stress is basically, again, as I said, pressure, right, or demand on your capacity or resources. Now, when there's pressure or demand on your capacity, your body sees that as danger, right? Because it forces you out of your resting phase, out of your comfort zone. So it doesn't matter how tiny or intense the pressure or the demand is. Anything that moves you from your comfort space, from that current space of rest, is considered danger. Remember, your body is not, your brain has no moral compass. So your brain cannot say, hey, what you're feeling, or this stress is good, or this stress is bad. That's not, they are not in that, it's not in that zone to determine for you. We are the ones that determine for the stress, whether, for our brain, if the stress or the stressor in quotes is bad or good. So what then happens is, when your body senses that there's danger, now it doesn't matter what this danger is. Remember I said, your brain doesn't know the difference between good or bad, right? It just says that, oh, okay, something is about to shake us. Something is about to take us out of our comfort zone. So how do we handle this? So your brain immediately sends signals to your body. right? So all your organs begin to start working. And then the first hormone that is released is actually cortisol. Because when you're faced with danger, the first thing that you need to tackle that danger is energy, right? Regardless of what the danger is, you need energy, because you have three responses majorly to stress, which is either to run away, that's flight, flee or flight, to stay and fight, or to freeze or faint. Yeah, so those are the three major responses to stress. And for each of these responses, you actually need energy to do that. So your brain then says, hey, we need energy, and then cortisol is released. Cortisol is a stress hormone that makes you crave food, makes you not necessarily hungry, but makes you crave food. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. I know a lot of you will say, hey, that is true. Maybe as I'm even saying it now, I'm sure it's hitting you like, oh, this happens to me. When you're stressed, don't you find that you have this intense desire to consume something? True or false? Like when you're under stress, you have this intense desire. I really need to consume something. And oftentimes, what you want to consume is not the healthy foods in quotes. When you're stressed, it's not when you want to drink water. It's not when you want to have a slice of watermelon. It's not when you want to eat cucumbers or vegetables. When you're stressed, that is when you want to take something. Yeah, you want to take something. You want to take alcohol, right? You want to take energy drinks. You want to take, for those who smoke, right? You smoke more when you're under stressed, when you're stressed out. And then food, that is when you're craving things like, the heavy duty foods, the junk, right? All those greasy, sugary, oily kind of stuff. That's what you're craving. And there's a science behind it, because those are the things that give you sudden and instant energy. Because your brain has said, we are facing danger now, so we need to attend to this now. So you need that to attend to this, right? Now, once that happens, another hormone is released, which is dopamine. Dopamine is like a feel-good hormone. So it makes you derive pleasure from things. It makes you experience pleasure. So you find that some of the things that you do, right? Some of the things that you do to gain, to appease your craving, even if it is, for some people, it's actually sex, because sex also gives you some form of instant energy. So it could be sex, it could be food, it could be drinks, it could be substance, it could be tobacco, right? But once you have indulged in those things, there's a pleasant feeling that goes through your system, and then you feel good. You get what I mean? Now, that is the dopamine at work. Then after dopamine, you have another one, which is called serotonin. Serotonin is another hormone that works similar to dopamine, but it's sort of different, because this one also affects your digestive system as well, right? Your metabolism and your digestive system, it affects it as well. So all these things work together to enable you, deal or cope with that stressful situation. Now, having said that, knowing for sure that your brain does not know the difference between good or bad, its job is just to ensure that you are protected from whatever danger it senses. I'm going to ask again, do you think stress is good or bad? Final question. Do you think stress is good or bad? Based on everything that I've just shared, if you followed me. Okay, Mr. Ben, please answer. Hey, Mr. Ben, you were raising your hand. Okay. Okay. Someone
Mr.
said,
Mr. Ben Adam, can you, is that hand raised an error, or?
I think it's an error.
Okay.
I think it's an error.
Mr. Durodola, please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thank you, Kris, for sharing this nuggets. I think stress is good.
Okay.
I think it makes you exercise some parts of the body that you don't normally want mentally. If you're not challenged mentally, you won't be able to fully to utilize fully your mental capabilities or discover that you could actually do some things. So
Right.
I also know that most times one works faster, better in an environment that is when you're under pressure,
Mm,
you tend to work faster and sharper. Uh,
mm,
though it should be regulated. I mean, not too much of everything is bad. So
exactly.
stress, yeah, with too much of it, yes, it's bad. But then I think it allows one to exercise some certain areas of mental capabilities one would not have extend to if that pressure is not applied.
What
Thank you.
was not applied. Thank you so much for your response. That was a very great response. So, to shut this argument or this line of discussion down once and for all, stress is good. Stress is not bad. I know we are used to hearing there are three types of stress. There's good stress, there's bad stress, there's stress, there's chronic stress, there's all that kind of stress. But stress on its own, uninterrupted, without any context whatsoever, is good. Reason being, stress exists for our survival. Stress exists to protect us, to keep us safe. Stress exists to keep us alive, right? That is the whole point and essence of stress. Now, stress is not bad until we make it bad. And how do we make stress bad? Just as I don't know who just spoke, but he said something as in when you do not properly regulate it, right? Then stress can become bad. When you immerse yourself in a stressful situation for long periods of time, at that point, you have abused and misused stress, so it becomes chronic. That is when it becomes, in quote, bad stress. Now, it's just like you're taking sugar or you're drinking water or you're taking vegetables. On their own, they aren't bad. They're good for you. You take a bottle of Coke today, you take a bottle of whatever, on its own is not bad, right? But it is how you now use them. It is how you now consume them that determines how bad it is. So you're taking a cube of sugar in a mug of tea, for instance, it's cool. But then you find that you increasingly add more cubes and eventually you're taking like 20 cubes in a cup. Does it mean that sugar in itself is bad? No, it just means that you have abused that sugar. And that is the whole thing with stress. Now, I have already explained the science of it, how it works, yeah? When you're faced with danger, when you're faced with a stressful situation, there's a stressor, a stress trigger, right? Within your zone, your body releases cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone. Cortisol is only released when your body senses there's danger. Now, if you do not know how to attend to that danger, you find that you're further exposed for prolonged periods of time to that same danger. What does that then mean? Naturally, your brain is still confused. It was like, oh, but we had already released some cortisol, right? Probably the cortisol wasn't enough. Let us release more. So more cortisol is released. You get more cravings, more cortisol, up to the point where you're inundated with the hormone cortisol, right? At that point, too much of it becomes bad. Then you begin to start experiencing the symptoms of chronic stress. Again, on its own, stress is good, but our relationship with stress is what determines whether it works for us or against us. All right. So, having said all that, remember at the beginning, some of you were not here. I mentioned that we, on this side of the divide, we don't do stress management, we do stress mastery. Sorry, excuse me. A lot of you are used to hearing stress management techniques, stress management practices, and that has been the populist way of attending to the issue regarding stress. But time has proven to us, and time and developments and new knowledge and tests and experiences have proven to us that stress management has not really been favorable to us in our pursuit of living healthier lives and happier lives and coping well with stress. So I'm going to share with you the differences between stress management and stress mastery. There's not enough time. I could have maybe, let me see if I can briefly share with you why stress mastery became the in thing. I had a health challenge where as a result of stress, and I developed high blood pressure. Then I lost my memory and I lived that way for 2 years. I had no recollection of who I was or what I was, yeah. And I lived like that for 2 years. Then my memory came back. This was in 2013. My memory came back in 2015. And I was curious, what happened to me? What led me down this path, right? Why did I have to go through this? And the topic, stress, kept popping up. And then when it popped up, and now I had the benefit of hindsight. So I could look back and go like, oh, these were the things I was doing. These were the things I wasn't doing. So this was why my stress was, chronic. And I totally abused it to the point where my body needed to shut down. So having known all that, I didn't want to go through that, anymore. So I was like, okay, what do I have to do now? So I started learning about stress management techniques, stress practices, what I needed to do to bring the stress down, to the point that I even started a radio show so that I could educate other people as well, right? So they didn't have to experience what I experienced. But then I realized along the line that everything that I was doing was not bringing down my blood pressure. I realized along the line that I was still experiencing the symptoms of chronic stress. And it got me worried because I was beginning to feel like I was a fluke, because here I was educating people and telling them that, okay, this is what you need to do to bring down your stress, to avoid stress, to reduce stress. But in my life, the stress was still, heightened. It was still mounting up. And then, of course, because naturally I like to study, I like to know more, I was drawn to study further. And then I landed on this lady's page, Heidi Hanna, who is like my mentor now in the industry. So she opened my eyes to what it was we had been doing wrong when it came to stress. And that revelation made me go, whoa. And since I got that revelation, trust me, my relationship with stress, my relationship with living, my relationship with challenges of life has been mwah. Now, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't feel the challenges, but it meant that I now had healthy ways of coping with these challenges. And it has been my number one passion since then to take this message, not just to people, but to workplaces, because workplaces are like the number one sources of stress, right? So having said all that, what was it that made stress mastery superior to stress management? And I hope you all are following and you're taking notes. So let's start with number one. The number one premise with stress management tells you that stress is bad. That already has killed whatever benefit stress is going to give you. Because let's face it, if something is bad, would you want it in your life? No. If something is bad, if you already have that presumption, that premonition that something is bad for you, of course, you're going to do everything in your power to get rid of it. So your mind is already closed to what benefits might be contained in this stress. On the flip side, what stress mastery tells you is that stress is a vital tool. It's a very important tool, right, that you can utilize for your own well-being. But stress management says stress is bad. Avoid it. Run away from it. That is why you have issues. You have things like stress reduction techniques, right? In stress management. In stress mastery, we don't believe in stress reduction because, hey, you can't reduce stress. Now, so that is one. That's the second one where we say stress is bad. That's for stress management. And then number two, that stress has to be reduced or avoided. That's stress management. Now, those two have been proven to be myths. You cannot reduce them. You cannot avoid stress, and stress is not bad, right? Now, stress mastery on the flip side tells you that stress is a constant aspect of life. Stress is life. Life is stress. You can't separate the two. So the sooner we come to terms with that, the easier and the better life becomes for us. Number three, stress management tells you that you're a victim. It encourages you to think that you are a victim, that things are just happening to you, that you have no agency over your life, over anything. So because of that, right, stress mastery on the other side comes to you and says, hey, you got to be accountable. You got to learn self-accountability. You have to learn that you have power within you to make changes, to effect changes. Life is not all about things happening to you, but it's about what you make out of the situation or your own contribution to whatever it is that is happening to you. So you see the difference, right? And another one is with stress management, you are encouraged to complain and worry again, because you're always the victim. A victim always complains and worries, basically, right? You don't see anything good about, you're always complaining. This is always happening to you, that is always happening to you, all that. While stress mastery tells you that you need to practice gratitude, you need to show appreciation. And the more gratitude and appreciation you show, you find that you worry less and you complain more. And let me explain why stress management in this regard doesn't really work for you. The more worried you are, what happens? The more anxious you become, the more cortisol is released. And you find that you're consistently within that stressful phase or that stressful space, right? So you have more cortisol and all that. I hope you're getting the relationship. Now, another thing that makes stress management not so good for you is it is reactionary. It encourages you to be reactionary and impulsive. In other words, you are ruled by your emotions. You are ruled by your sentiments. Yeah. So whatever happens to you, immediately you just have to react. So you don't take time out to pause, to consider, to think about logically the situation or what you're feeling or what is happening to you. You just want to react immediately. On the flip side, stress mastery teaches you self-control and teaches you how to be logical. So you find that no matter how stressful the situation is, you have this sense of mastery, this sense of calmness in the midst of a storm. That is what stress mastery helps you to achieve, because it is beginning to work on your mindset, to rewire your brain to start thinking right. Then another one is, because you are able, you're not, because you are very emotional, you're very sentimental, you react impulsively, it is impossible for you to develop problem solving skills. You can't develop problem solving skills because you're not logical, right? You find that a lot of people who are constantly in problems, like they are in one bad spot today, another bad spot tomorrow, you look at them and look at their lives, you realize that it's a lack of control, a lack of self-control. They are too impulsive, they are too emotional, right? So because of that, if you that's why we say you don't make your best decisions when you're in the midst of a storm, when your brain is all when your emotions are high. You can't make the best decisions that way. That's why when you find yourself in some troubling waters, people always say, calm down, take time out, breathe, because you need to allow yourself time to focus so that you can reason properly, right? Now, another thing is this, and this is the one I love the most. Stress management does not, or rather, stress management encourages selfishness. It's all about me. Remember, if you have a victim mentality, you do not think about anything else but yourself. Like everything else everything is happening to you. It's all about you. Somebody smiles this way, the person is smiling because the person doesn't like you. Somebody is frowning because the person doesn't like you. Everything is just about you. So you become very selfish. And when you think that way, you are now in an attack mode. You're always defending yourself. You're always attacking other people, because you can't just imagine that people wish you well. So you begin to be very predatory in your approach to things and to people. On the flip side, stress mastery teaches you sustainable contribution, tells you, hey, you're not alone, you are not an island, right? You are an important member of a larger society. So because you are learning self-accountability, it enables you to apply yourself to your job, to your environment, to the people around you, and even to yourself in such a manner that you're providing some form of sustainable contribution. And of course, stress mastery encourages high problem solving skills because you're able to think logically from a place of self-control, right? Okay, somebody's hand was up. I'm sorry, I couldn't break my line of thoughts then. You wanted to ask something before we move on? Who was it? I think Moloku. Okay, should I go on?
Please carry on. Carry on. You've enunciated most of the thoughts I had.
Okay,
Carry on,
good.
please.
Awesome. Awesome. So now let us understand, in your workplace as journalists, journalists are highly stressed individuals. Now, there are so many triggers, right, for journalists, triggers, stressors for journalists, things that encourage stress. Now, you have three types of stress generally. So you have the work stressors, you have the financial stressors, and you have the emotional stressors, right? Now, work stressors, you have deadlines. Deadlines, there's nothing like that. You have deadlines, and then you have your job is very abrupt, right? Anything can happen. You can have like a breaking news and somebody is sent somewhere or whatever to go cover this or cover that. And then there's some form of insecurity as well surrounding your job, right? There's so much insecurity. For someone who has been in the system, I understand that aspect. Like there's a friend I was talking about why don't we push for investigative journalism more in the country? Why don't we have that? And then we find things like, when there's no insurance, when there's no this. So it's not like you do not have the passion to do these things, but you also have to think about yourself. You have to think about your life. You have to think about your family. You have to think, most of all, security. And are you sacrificing your life for the right cause? Right? So those are the things that can trigger stress from a workplace point of view. Now, you also have your financial stressors. Now, we all know, except I don't know if things have changed now, right? Money has been a critical aspect of journalism, of wahala in the journalism industry. Journalists, are you paid well? We know of a lot of media houses who are owing their staff lots of money, long periods of time. But then you find that even though, the funny thing is that you're in this system, you know that work is going on, you know that clients are paying money, but then money is not trickling down to you. And even when it does trickle down to you, it's coming, again, as I said, in trickles. It is nothing in comparison to the work that you do, the value that you add. Is not enough compensation. So that in itself is enough stressors, right? So you find that there's been a lot of negative flack regarding the journalism industry, especially when it comes to money, when it comes to brown envelope, when it comes to integrity. And this boils from the foundation, from the media houses, from the media platforms. Are you providing your journalists with what they need, right? So that they do not have to succumb to some, funny practices to put food on their table. Now, another one is emotional stressors. I'm going to share, I told you that I had a show that I ran for 5 years, right, as an independent producer and host on radio. And it was a wellness program, but I found that emotionally I was being drained because people were now sharing with me stories, real life stories of abuse, right? Abuse meted on them as children, by their parents, by people that they trusted, and even the ones that they themselves meted out on others because of their own trauma. And the thing began to mess with my brain, mess with me so bad that I needed to stop the show because I became very paranoid. Now, this is one of the dangers. If you recall, during the time of COVID, one of the major things that we kept telling people was protect your mind space. Do not read everything. Do not listen to everything. Not all news is good. Anything that raises your anxiety, that puts you in panic mode, actually, compromises your immunity, and then you're more open to diseases, you're more open to illnesses, you're more open to infections, right? Now, imagine these are people on the outside who do not have to work in the system, but you guys work in the system. You guys are like the first respondents when things happen. You're the ones that break the news. You're the ones that get to see these things firsthand, and you're the ones that will have to filter the information in such a way that the normal people can digest these things without inducing panic. But you have already been in that situation where boom. So people that really do need stress interventions are journalists, are those in the broadcast industry, broadcast media. It goes without saying, right? We should be doing more regarding that. Now, having said all that, Have you said all that? I mean, you have all that. Then you also have other emotional aspects as well, relationships between team members, between colleagues, external relationships or personal relationships, the influence of that and how it affects you at work, and the influence of the relationships at work and how it affects you outside in your personal space. So we need to understand all that. And then you're asking yourself, how do I go through this? How do I, work with this in such a way that I can thrive because I love my job, because this is what I do, this is what I'm passionate about. But my passion should not kill me. You get what I'm saying? My passion should not kill me. So it's all about understanding and knowing how best you can integrate the different aspects of your life. Remember, we're talking about thriving, right? And I said that thriving is about you having a holistic approach to what success is to you, right? So for a lot of people, success is about, I want to be the best journalist, I want to win this award, I want to, whatever the case, get this grant to run this story, whatever the case is. But also remember that you have a life, right? So what is your health saying? Some of us are running the race of success at the risk of our personal health and well-being, at the risk of our relationships, at the risk of our spiritual lives as well, right? So what we are trying to do is see how you can integrate all these things. And it starts from what you think and how you apply all this stuff. Now, how would you recognize that you're stressed? How would you recognize you're stressed? Now, there are 4 ways or 4 categories by which you can recognize that you're stressed, right? So you have your physical signs, emotional signs, behavioral signs, and cognitive signs. Now, physical signs, you have dizzy spells, you're always tired, always exhausted. You have headaches, unexplainable headaches, severe headaches, elongated headaches, prolonged headaches, sorry. Some of us have acne or rashes when we're stressed. Do you have these feelings of constipation or diarrhea? For women, you experience these changes in your monthly cycle as well. Some of us gain weight when we're stressed. Some of us, lose weight when we're stressed. So some of us have chest pains as well. And then you also have all these butterflies in the tummy feeling, right? So when you're getting all those things physically, that is an indication to you that you're stressed. Now, what are the emotional signs? Emotional signs, you have mood swings. You're happy today, you're angry tomorrow. You're like every second, you're just changing your moods, right? So nobody can really predict you. You can't even predict yourself. Depression sets in, you're overwhelmed by work, like you experience burnout, like you're totally tired, like you can't deal with this anymore, right? It's getting to you. And then sorry, excuse me. And then you have these feelings of loneliness as well. Feelings of loneliness where you feel I'm all alone, nobody's there for me, blah, blah, blah. And then feelings of low self-esteem. I'm not good enough. I do not deserve this. So when you begin to have those feelings, those are emotional signs that you're stressed. Now, another one is behavioral. Now, we talk about you have feelings of loneliness, right? Now, in behavioral, you actually isolate yourself intentionally. In the midst of people, you isolate yourself. You intentionally refuse to mix with people. That is a part of, that's a sign of behavioral stress. Procrastination, you procrastinate a lot. Working under pressure is a sign of stress. Like you really don't need to work under pressure. Like I work well under pressure. That ties in closely with procrastination. Then you have sleep irregularities, feeding irregularities, and then you're very nervous or fidgety. You're talking and then you're like blah, 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 blah. Your hands can't stay in one place, stuff like that. Now, the last sign, which is cognitive, is you begin to lose focus, right? You have no interest in the things that used to interest you before. Your memory becomes affected, racing thoughts. You're sitting in one place, but your mind has gone to 101 places and back. Poor judgment. You used to have good judgment before, but now you're just making silly mistakes and, stuff like that. So those are signs, cognitive signs of stress. Now, when you realize that you're stressed, what should you do? What do you do? Should you just acknowledge it and move on? Is that how it works? No. Again, remember, I said that with stress mastery, it teaches you self-accountability. It teaches you how to take responsibility for your life, right? And once you begin to take responsibility for your life, you realize that the things that used to bother you before were not as important, or are not as important as you thought they were, right? And then the feeling of you're a victim begins to subside. So as a journalist, how do you then master stress? First of all, you have to master stress by mastering yourself. Okay? You have to master stress by mastering yourself. And one of the ways you can do that is to build resilience. Remember, I said that resilience is your capacity or the ability to move forward, regardless of what has happened to you. Move forward. I know we have heard the saying before, I want to bounce back. How many of us have used that word, the saying? How many of us? Just indicates with a show of hands. How many of us? I want to bounce back, like something has happened to you. I just want to bounce back. That is what is on your mind. You want to bounce back. Okay, now that is a major lie. You can't bounce back. That thinking, that ideology that you want to bounce back is actually what aggravates your stress. Why do you want to bounce back? What are you bouncing back to? Okay, let's assume that you as a media personnel, right? You covered some form of news, like tragic news. Let me see, which one was very tragic recently? Those Chibok girls saga. So let's assume you were there, you were the first respondent, and you saw what you saw, right? And you have to report what you reported. Then a month later or 2 months later, you're thinking like, man, I need to bounce back to how I was before. Is it possible to bounce back? Really, if you ask yourself, no. Because bouncing back, right, presupposes that you're going to go back to who you were before that incident. In other words, you want to see how you can eradicate that incident from your memory and go back to how you were before. It's impossible because your life has already been affected. Something has already happened to you. Something has already occurred that you have experienced. So it is impossible for you to forget it. So the idea of wanting to go back is you are reaching for the impossible. You are chasing a dream. You're chasing something that is not real. So what we say is, please do not bounce back. Why are you interested in the past? Why are you interested in going back? You cannot grow and you cannot become a better you when your focus is, I need to bounce back. Your focus is, I want to move forward. That is what resilience is. That is what thriving is. You want to move forward. You want to take all these experiences that have happened to you, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then utilize them in such a way, glean the lessons from them, and use it to become a better you moving forward. One of the things we do is we try to suppress our bad experiences, our ugly experiences. Each of us has them. We've all gone through stuff. We've all done stuff. We've all made decisions that, I mean, when you think about it, you want to cover your face in shame. But that is part of the ingredient that makes a beautiful stew that is you, right? It is the Maggi and the salt and the oil and the palm oil and the vegetables. And sometimes you want to make a beautiful pot of soup. You need egusi, you need bitter leaf soup, right? Bitter leaf, sorry, you need a bitter leaf. Bitter leaf in itself, you taste it is bitter, but by the time you mix it with everything, it kind of like adds this va-va-voom to the food that you go like, yeah, this is it, right? So that is the whole point. All those ugly incidents, all those bad experiences are the bitter leaves in your vegetable soup. You need them so that you are able to grow, so that you're able to become a better you. Right? So the first thing I tell people to do, you want to build resilience, is understand who you are. Number one, self-knowledge. So right now I'm talking about resilient tools, right? The tools that you need. So number one, self-knowledge. You need to know who you are. You need to understand where you're coming from. You need to know what makes you you. You are in media right now, yes, but beyond the media, who are you? And you see that will drive the kind of work, the kind of assignments that you take, the way you apply yourself to your job. Do you get? Now, by the time you understand who you are, then it is very possible, at that point, more possible, easier for you to love yourself. And when you love yourself, it is difficult for you to be abused, to be maltreated. Do you get? To be manipulated because you love yourself. When you love yourself, it's easier for you to create healthy boundaries around you. And that is self-care. You create healthy boundaries. So number one, self-knowledge is very important. Once you know yourself, then you are able to love yourself. Number two, self-love. Then number three, self-care. A lot of us, there's a reason why, number three, there's a reason why self-care comes before comes after self-love and self-knowledge. Now, you cannot love what you don't know. So it's important to know yourself first before you can claim you want to love yourself. Now, you cannot care for what you don't love. You cannot care adequately and efficiently for what you don't love. So before you can offer care to anything or to anyone effectively, you need to love that person. Now, we see this happening all the time, right? Let me give you an instance so that you know the difference. You can care for something without loving that thing, but you cannot love something without caring for it, right? So I'll give an example. If you love someone, you know that person to the point where you know what makes the person tick. Your desire, your passion is to make the person happy, to keep the person safe, to ensure that, the person is progressing or is becoming himself or have a better version of themselves. That is your passion. But when it comes to just self-care without self-love, you don't care what the person really needs. So what you're doing are just acts of care. So at that point, you're just doing anything that you feel the person will need, but not what the person actually desires. Have you seen situations where people call you, or rather, they just assume they know what you want? In your head, you're trying to say, but this is not what I want. But they go like, no, 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 no. So they give you what they feel you need, and they expect you to be grateful to that. With self-care, you are looking for validation. That's self-care without love. You're looking for external validation. I'm just doing this so that you can thank me. But with self-love, you care about the person. So it's important. You love yourself first before you can care for yourself. A lot of people go to the gym, eat vegetables, and do all that, but they don't love themselves truly. They're just doing what people say they ought to do. So there needs to be a mindset shift. Now, once you're able to care for yourself appropriately, remember I was talking about healthy boundaries. With those healthy boundaries, you're able to create priorities. You're able to prioritize your life, the things that you need, because you know yourself already. You know what makes you tick. You know what your goals are. You know what your vision is. You know what your principles are. You know what your values are, right? And based on that, you're loving yourself appropriately. You don't need other people to love you, but you're loving yourself. And then you're not caring for yourself intentionally, so that you do not lose yourself in the process of life. Now, while caring for yourself, one of the things that you need to do is dictate how people should care for you. It is very important. People can only treat you the way you make them think they can treat you, right? You can't give what you don't have. So when people begin to sense that this person is different, this person knows herself, this person loves herself, find that they begin to relate with you that way eventually. And then you're no longer a people pleaser. You're not there to please people. It doesn't matter what it is, because you're very clear. You have created boundaries and you have set priorities because you have a goal, you have a vision, you have a focus. Now, after prioritizing, which is the fourth tool, then you go to time management. Why are people stressed? People are stressed out because, number one, they do not prioritize their day. They do not prioritize their activities. They do not prioritize the things that matter to them. And the number one thing that should be on your list of priorities is you. You are the number one thing, right? Then every other thing falls underneath it. By the time you're able to prioritize, you find that you're managing your time appropriately. You are not procrastinating the way you used to. You are not overworking yourself, right? Because you're not doing so many things at the same time. A lot of us women, we like to say things like that we are multitaskers, which is what is killing us silently, because we are designed to do a task at a time. Your brain is actually designed to follow things in schedule. But because of our lack of accountability, because of our lack of discipline, we model everything together. And then we find that, we have problems with time management. And that begins to affect us and increase the cortisol within us. Now, once that is done, right, the sixth tool is support. Again, we are not islands. Nobody's an island. And one of the lies that stress management tells you is is me. It's all about me. It's all about me. No, it's not true. You can't do anything. It doesn't matter how beautiful you are, how rich you are, how smart you are. You can't achieve anything by yourself. You need a solid support system. And you can only have a solid support system if you know yourself. Some people have a support system that kind of like kills them and drags them down the more. Now, there's a quote I saw somewhere that if you have 5 stupid friends, you are the 6th one. And it is very true, because like begets like, right? Like begets like. Your tribe will resonate with you, basically, or you will resonate with your tribe. Birds of the same feather flock together. So if you have your dreams, you have your goals, you have what you want to attain, and again, it is never too late. You are never too late to begin this process, right, of building resilience within yourself. Once you have that, it's easier for you to identify the right people that can carry you through the journey of life and support you when you need. Remember, support system. And that is what they are, support system. They are not there to live your life for you. We see people who have had this entitlement mentality because they have a support system. They basically don't do anything anymore. They expect the support system to do everything for them. They forget that it's a system that supports. They have to support you. They have to support something. So what do you have? What are you bringing to the table, right? We've heard that talk all the time. What are you bringing to the table? It's very important. Sorry. It's very important. What are you bringing to the table? What value do you have? Now, you do not have to have like millions, you don't have, but there must be something that they are supporting. So what that means is it's very important that you start working on yourself, develop yourself, build yourself up from inside. How are you improving your life, right? For some of us, we are still using journalism practices from 20 years ago. Some of us are finding it difficult to go online, for instance, to do lives, to do, to find more creative outlets of practicing our passion, or practicing our journalism. And I find that the younger ones are actually taking advantage of that because their minds are more open, they are more flexible to things, and they realize that, hey, there are better ways that we can do this. But you can only do that when you start caring for yourself and start prioritizing, you start knowing what you need. So you see that everything is related. You cannot just be resilient. You just can't go to bed and wake up and say, I'm resilient. No, it's a process, and it's an intentional and deliberate process. So you need to be able to build a support system and remember that as they are supporting you, you are also a support to them. Remember, I was talking about how stress mastery encourages sustainable contribution, right? So it teaches you selflessness. It makes you understand the power of a team, makes you understand how you are not more important than the other person, but how we all, with our different nuances, can come together to create something magnificent. The less issues we have regarding it is all about me, I'm the one that has to shine at the risk of my team members, or whatever the case may be, you find that the more stressed you are, because you chase people away from you. You find that you do not really have the support system that you need. You can't call on anyone because you have created this persona around you that you are selfish. And again, selfish people don't go far, right? Now, the last thing that you need is creative outlets to build resilience. And that's part of what I was talking about when I said you need to learn to develop yourself. A lot of us are going through stuff, right? We're going through some form of challenges that sometimes is difficult to express, it's difficult to explain. You need to find a way to let these things out, let out your frustrations in a healthy manner. Now, remember I said that when you're stressed, your cortisol encourages you to crave for certain things. So you find that you're craving for alcohol, you're craving for sex, you're craving for food, you're craving for sugar, you're craving for tobacco or weed, or whatever it is that you take. Now, when you do not concentrate on creating a creative outlet for you to express your pain, to deal with your challenges, you find that you're immersing yourself further in those things, those cravings, to the point where you become addicted to them. So rather than you thinking about productive ways or how to use your challenge to propel you, to to grow, right? You find that you're just messing yourself further. Your brain becomes lax. You become lazy. No problem solving skills. Then you become a victim. Then you are depressed. Then life is not good. Because face it, there's nothing that's happening to you that has not happened to anyone. There's nothing special about you, really. Sometimes when I look at my life and the challenges that I've gone through, I need to remind myself that you're not special. You're not more special than the other person. You just have your own journey. And then the journey and the things that you have been given, how are you utilizing your experiences so that you can refine yourself? And that is what I tell people. Don't run away from stress, because stress refines you. Now, because we say stress refines you and don't run away from stress, does not mean you should not start running towards stress. Don't go and look for what is not looking for you, right? Don't go looking for what is not looking for you. And a lot of times we go looking for what is not looking for us based on our reactions to, to the issues that happen to us in life. You also need to learn that self-control is very, very, very important. Now, having spoken about that, do you have questions before I move on? We're about wrapping up. Do you have questions?
Okay, I like to come in here. I've been sorry, Coach Kris. I've been seeing Chris Monaco's hand raised.
Okay.
And I think at some point I saw Gochuku Bamdele as well. Do you fellas have questions or contribution? Perhaps questions, please.
Yeah, more questions.
Point, do we have questions? I know she's talked a lot about several things here today, and she's helped us to understand what stress is all about. Talking about the primary stressors, especially as journalists or as media practitioners, and coping mechanisms, balancing all of and building resilience. It's quite important, and I want to believe that, we have questions.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Again, Kris, namesake. Well done. Is it Christian or Cristiano?
No,
which one is it?
It's just Kris. Kris. Kris.
Okay. Thank you. You got the judge of us. I'm not sure that's how your dad spells it anyway. But thank you so much for today's presentation. Well done, Gwen, for putting this together. You spoke about reporters and the stress they seem to go through, especially after they've covered a gruesome story.
Yes.
I fall in that category in that I have to cover some very, very nauseating stories, which on a good day is not fun to gist, whether in a drug parlor or with your friends or even with your spouse. So these stories are better left in the field. And most times that is exact advice I give my staff when they have to cover the same kind of stories. For instance, let me not take too much of our time. A lady was caught in Anambra. She had been making sacrifices with kids, and we were able to uncover that story. We went into the house and we saw. Well done. Sorry, my son is listening in and playing his game. We were able to get into the house, uncover the sacrificial stuff, and yes, the images haunted us for minutes.
That must be
Our response to that was, it is a job. Just like you're done with the day you pull your clothes and put them in the laundry basket, you're done with those clothes until laundry is done and you wear them afresh. That was our own approach to that. And so far, to be fair, it has worked for us. The fact that we take it a job at a day, a job per day, an assignment per day. This is an assignment, this is a job, we're done with it, we'll move on. So we fail to see these as stressors. When these things pop up and we have so much, I always encourage everybody, take your leave. If you are not due for leave yet and you feel you can't manage this for a minute, no problem. I can give you a day or 2 days off, just to cool off. And I tell them, switch off your phones on these days. Go far away from the news. The truth about the news is, it is depressing. You hardly find good news as headline. Check out the headlines. The small one that Super Eagles are giving us, they still went and lost final. So you can't find good news as headline these days. It's very sad. But here comes the question. In managing the media, you can't manage the news. You can only manage the people, the persons who report the news. But knowing fully well that as individuals, we all differ. Is there a one size fits all approach?
No, it's not.
Or it has to be a treat each person like a person, as against treats each person as a people.
Kris, I thought you were getting to your question.
That's the question I'm asking now.
Okay. So could you come again with that, please?
Is there a one size fits all approach to stress management for a group of reporters? Or is it a treat each person as a person?
Okay. Thank you for that. Now, there is a formula that works, a generic formula that works for everyone. But at the same time, you remember what I talked about self-knowledge, where I said it is very important that you know yourself. In as much as you're working as a team, you're an individual in a team. Remember, I mentioned that. Now, until you're able to recognize you and recognize your values, your principles, your strengths, especially your weaknesses, because you need to run a SWOT analysis on yourself. What are the threats? And the threats are usually like the stressors. You talked about how you talk to your team and it seems to be working, which is amazing. But you also have to understand that we've seen people who have declared that they are working with the situation, and yet you find somewhere along the line that they are depressed. And one of the challenges with that is they are all trying to act like, hey, I'm above board, this should not touch me because it is just a job. You can't say it is just a job, because you are human. There are emotions. You cannot deny the emotions. It is okay to feel bad, because that is another angle to it that we need to be careful about, right? Because we are trying hard to protect ourselves, we now create a veneer, like a steel boundary around us, and then we say, hey, it is just a job. You also have to understand that there's a humane aspect to it. And it's important that's why I talked about self-love. It's important that you are compassionate to yourself first. And one of the most important ways that you can be compassionate to yourself is not to deny what you're going through. It's not to deny what you're saying. It's okay to say it. And I like what you're doing, that you're giving them time off. It's good, but why are they taking time off? Because it's important you address this. A lot of people just pile up trauma. They just pile up trauma and pile up trauma and pile up trauma and think that they're dealing with it, but they really aren't dealing with it. They are just avoiding dealing with it. They are closing their eyes. Okay, it's just a job. It's just a job. Yeah, it is a job, but you're dealing with stories that deal with humans. It cannot just be a job. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's important that we also look at that aspect as well. Now, back to your question, because that's where I was going to, why I wanted us to ask ourselves some questions first before we go to the next one. I have talked about resilience, what you can do to help you with resilience in your chosen profession, right? And I was able to handle that. Now, I now said that, okay, moving forward, we've looked at the resilient techniques, tools. Now we're going to look at stress mastery techniques. We do not believe, again, as I said, in managing. We believe in mastery. And it's important that you get this knowledge. And then when you leave here, you start thinking that way. When you say you have mastery over something, that means you have conquered it. That means you have authority over it. That means that thing can't control you, can't determine for you, right, what you need to do or how you need to do it. You are the one in charge. You are the one on the driver's seat. When the moment we all come to terms with that, it's easier for us to deal with all these things. Yeah. So management tells you that, hey, let's just manage it. It might not be favorable, but let's manage it. You know, so it kind of gives you this feeling of just doing it because we have no choice, but it's bad for us. But now, so life give us, let us do it like that. No. Stress mastery says you are not managing the situation. You have to master it. You have to look at it critically and logically and look at the pros and the cons of each situation and take out the lessons that you need from it so that you can apply it to your life and apply it to other assignments that you have going forward, which is why that SWOT analysis thing is very, 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 very important. Remember, I talked about time management earlier. Time management is very key. Now, these are stress mastery techniques that you need to imbibe. Time management is very, very important. Effective time management practices. Sorry?
No, I was going to, you know, I'm sorry to slip in that because I can see other hands, you know, and I want us to take as many questions as possible.
Okay, all right. So go ahead, please.
Okay, so I'd like to also announce.
Maybe they can ask you very briefly.
Yes, exactly, because I know you also need to go. I'd like to announce, please, that for us to make our contributions or questions, you know, keep it short and simple. It will really be appreciated. Dr. Emeka Odipo, please kindly go ahead. I see you, Mr. Austin Ugochukwu Bamdela. I see you. Please kindly go ahead.
Yeah, this is Austin. Okay. If Emeka is not going, can I go on?
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. By the very nature of the jobs that journalists do, as you have clearly explained, as Kris has explained in a very crisp way, the stressors are multiplied by the very nature of the environment in which the journalists in Nigeria work. Now, added to the natural stressors involved in the job is what has happened to our government and what is happening in the environment where a journalist gets low pay but have to cope in the same environment where today some people's pay can't take them to work and back home. So how do you manage these different kinds of stresses in the environment, from the government? People are talking of banning social media, and so on and so forth. So how do we strike a balance in manage the various stressors in such a way that the positive stresses are optimized?
Okay. Lady Gwen, can I answer? You want to ask more questions?
Yes, please. Ugochukwu Bamdele from, I'm not too sure now, Enugu, Uyo. Yes, please go ahead.
It's Uyo, but I'm currently in Abuja. Good morning, ladies.
Oh my world. Go ahead. Yeah. It's so good to hear you.
Hi, Dr. Kris.
Hi, I'm not a doctor.
I mean,
well, thank you.
The work that you do and what medical doctors do, I'm trying to find a clear-cut difference because you're helping people. It's a lot of mental work.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to take on something that you said earlier. I'm a bit concerned. At some point, you mentioned that when you talked about what people are going through and that there's nothing special about you and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I hold a different opinion, right? And that's where my question would come from. Because when you say there's nothing special about you, I think that, you know, everyone is unique. Everyone is distinct. And so you're experiencing something that everybody has gone through in your own way. I would imagine that that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so that means that you're going through a challenge, mental stress, PTSD from work, whatever it is.
Right.
It's special to you. And so I would imagine that it should be dealt with on this is you, this is your strength, this is who you are. And so it's your challenge. Let's face it from your own point of view and deal with it. I don't know if I'm right.
Yeah, I get where you're going and I will address it. Thank you for pointing that out.
You can start with
okay. Let me start with
and then we go to Dr. Odipo's question. I mean, sorry, Mr. Austin's remark or question.
Okay, so to answer the previous one, right? You have to understand that there's a difference between knowing the things you have control over and the things you have no control over, right? A lot of times we stress ourselves and bang our heads on the wall based on things we really can't control. Can you control certain policies? Somebody said somewhere that you cannot control the news, but you can control how you report the news. You can control how you ingest the news. That is the difference. Now, there are ways that by the time you run a SWOT analysis on yourself and you're able to separate the things you can control from the things you can't control, it's easier for you to, prioritize better and attend your energies to more productive uses rather than complaining. Remember, I said stress management is all about complaining. All you see is just problems. All you see is just problems, and you are a victim already, based on even what you said, what is going on in the country, this is which nobody's denying it. It happens, yeah? But again, are you the victim? Or is there something that you can do about it? A lot of times we are not able to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. We want to just stay. Sometimes things happen to you so that your eyes are open to all the beautiful things within you that you have not yet explored, that you can bring out to the fore. In this same country, you have journalists who are actually legally, legitimately making income outside whatever the government is paying, outside whatever their primary sources of income are paying. Do you understand? So it's all about you being very creative. That's why I said with stress mastery, you have high problem solving skills. At that point, you're becoming very logical. You're becoming more open and aware to yourself and your capacity. You're becoming more flexible, and you're beginning to understand that, hey, I can do this thing. Life doesn't happen to me. I happen to life. So in the midst of it, regardless of what is going on around you, there are always opportunities. There are always things to be grateful for. There are always things that you can take advantage of and push to your own benefit. So it's all about you. And it's not, it's all about you. So that answers that. The second question where you said, I mentioned about you're not special. Let me explain why I said that. A lot of times when people are seeing themselves as victims, right? You kind of like give yourself some inflated sense of importance. You find people on social media now, they say, to my haters, like, who is hating you? Everybody's busy living their lives. That's what I mean when I say that there's nothing special about you. We are all human beings. We are all on this planet. There's nothing about me that makes me more special than you. I am unique in my own way, but I'm not more special than you. So it's like, how do I put it now? I like to use food a lot as example because I love food, right? So imagine I'm making a pot of pottage, right? And I need beans and I need palm oil and I need that. Am I going to say that the beans is more important than the palm oil? No, it's all about choice eventually. But then these things are unique, but there's nothing special about them, more special than about the other one inside the food. It's the same thing in this whole world that we're living in. We all come with our unique personalities, with those things that make us who we are. But when you look at it on the surface, there's nothing more special because we are all human beings. The same blood flows through us. All of us go through the same challenges, albeit in some instances, the intensity is greater here or lesser there. But by the time you begin to see yourself as just one of so many people, it's easier for you to look at your challenges as not, it is only me, it's only happening to me, why me? At that point, you're not singing the why me song. You are singing the why not me song. Why should it not happen to you? Because that is when you are able to bring out the best out of you to become who you need to be. I hope that answers the question. Any more? Does that answer?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So
okay.
Do I go ahead or we have more questions?
Yeah, let me just come in a bit. My name is Meka Odipo.
Okay.
I'm a bit scared when you try to maybe I may not get the proper word for it. Try to jettison stress management for stress mastery. I know that mastery is the high point of it, so that you don't have any feeling, any illusions about stress at all when you skip the management. But I think you have to have a first degree before you have a master's degree. So yeah.
Can I say
I think
something? I get where you're going. Can I say something, sir? Let me see. There's something that we say that I think is even in the Bible, where they say you've grown beyond drinking milk. Now you are chewing bone. So when you started chewing bone, do you want to go back to taking breast milk? No. So it's all about knowledge is progressive, growth is progressive, right? So we have learned a better way of doing things. Why do you still want to go back? If you didn't have this information now, it's different. But now you know. So why do you still want to think that stress is bad for you? Why do you still want to think that you want to reduce stress? How can you reduce something that is with you for life? Right? And I tell people all the time that a stressless life is a lifeless life. When people come to me and say, hey, Kris, please, I want to learn how to reduce stress. Like, what stress do you want to reduce? Because stress comes at us in different forms. So if you say that you want to reduce stress, okay, what stress? The stress of probably your boss being on your case all the time. So that is one stress. Let's say, even though it's not possible, but let's say you are able to reduce that stress. Tomorrow, when you face the stress of traffic, how are you going to deal with it? The next day, when you face the stress of losing someone you love, how are you going to deal with it? So we do not talk about learning how to reduce stress or learning how to avoid stress. What we're talking about is giving yourself tools and skills and techniques so that regardless of what happens, you know, you are able to deal with it. You're able to contend with it at that point. You're not avoiding it. Does that make sense? You're not avoiding it. So I am not going to say that at this point, I'm not going to say, hey, let's do stress management, because the whole premise or the whole foundation upon which stress management was based was that stress is bad. But now we know that stress is not bad. Now we know that we cannot reduce stress. Right? And now we know that what we run away from is something that we cannot have mastery over. So if I want to be able to solve a particular problem and I'm running away from that problem, there is no way I can solve it. And I also have to point out something. This whole idea of stress is bad. So that maybe if I do this, you know, you'll be able to understand better. Do you know that stress is not just about bad things happening to you? Stress is also, again, as I said, your brain does not know the difference between good and bad. So it's about anything that places demand or pressure on your capacity or resources. So excitement is a form of stress. You waking up in the morning and thinking about what to eat is a form of stress. Not seeing somebody in a long time, I'm going to the airport to pick up that person is a source of stress. Just having a baby, your wife just put to bed and you're going to the hospital is some form of stress, even though it's exciting, right? Even though it's love, whatever, but it is stress. Preparing for a presentation is stress. You know, preparing for a trip is stress. So stress is not just about somebody died, I lost money, my house got burnt, you know, and all that. So by the time we begin to open our minds fully to the full concept of what stress is, you find that we are not limiting ourselves to one small, because are you all about the bad things in your life? No, we are bigger than that. I tell people all the time, your failures, your problems, your challenges do not define you, but they make you. Do you understand? Stress does not define you and should not define you, but stress should make you. That is why I say stress is a refiner. Stress refines you. But when you are thinking about stress management alone, it can't refine you, because you are always on that journey of, I want to reduce it. Life is happening to me. I'm a victim. Things are not working well. I'm always complaining. Everything is always happening to me. But by the time it begins to refine you, you begin to see, oh, wow, there are opportunities here. There are benefits here. There are things I can do with this thing. Have you not seen stories of resilience? When you hear stories of resilience, you are motivated, right? When people share with you all the things, that's why I say nobody is special. What makes us special really is how we attend to the challenges in our lives. How do we rise? The fact that you're going through challenges does not make you special in any way. But what makes you special is how you attend to the challenge. What do you do in the midst of that? We all heard the story of Helen Paul when she shared her story. There are other people who have experienced that and nothing came out of their lives. Right? Is it that they are not human beings? Is it that they don't have the same blood or whatever? But it's about the mindset, about how she was able to build herself, how she was able to build that resilience so that she can become who she is today. In the midst of darkness, you can be the light. You can actually come out and see the light. So that is the whole idea.
Right.
Right?
Thank you very much.
So remember, stress does not define you. Stress actually makes you, but it doesn't define you. There's a difference, right?
So stress is supposed to rather propel us towards a purpose,
Yes, it makes you.
it
It
becomes
helps
who
you
we
become.
are.
Yes, it helps you become, but it doesn't define you. So you can't
Right.
say, for instance, maybe the stress you're going through is one of failure. By the time you start saying, I am a failure, you have already defined yourself. But when you say, I have failed, but what lessons have I learned from this failure so that I can become a better person tomorrow? That's a different ideology. So just to wrap up, because of time, after this, then we can ask all the questions, right? So this is very, very important that I need to share. It's called the stress tool. Remember, I shared the resilient tools. I wanted to share on the stress management techniques, right? I mean, stress mastery techniques. Sorry. So we talked about time management, and the communication skills too are very, very important. Mindfulness and relaxation. You need to learn to be mindful. You need to learn to practice that. Mindfulness makes you appreciate your present, helps you reduce your drive to worry and complain. So you're not thinking about tomorrow, you're not thinking about yesterday, you're thinking about today. You're relishing the moment, because again, remember I said, what do you have control over? Neither of us has control over tomorrow. Neither of us can go back to yesterday and change whatever it was that happened. But what we have control over is now. We don't even have control over the next 30 minutes, because anything can still happen. So that is the reality that we need to really put to mind. But what you have control over is today, is now, this very second that we are talking. So what are you doing? For some of you, part of the mindfulness now is how attentive are you to what we're sharing? It's part of it. What are the feelings that are going through you? Are you taking note of them? Are you understanding how these things are influencing your thinking? If you're feeling like part of what I'm saying is rubbing you off the wrong way, this is the time for you to start asking yourself, why is it rubbing me off the wrong way? Do I have unresolved trauma? Do I have issues that I'm dealing with that I've refused to confront? Is what she's saying making me now wanting to confront it and I'm too scared to confront it? Or is this exciting? Is this something that I've always practiced but I didn't know this was how it's supposed to be? So that is the whole idea about being mindful. And then you now become grateful. You start showing appreciation and gratitude, not just for the big things, but for the little things. By the time you understand that, it's a lot to have data to attend a class like this, you're like, oh, I'm grateful. What some people pay money for, I'm getting it for free. I have a sound mind, I have a healthy body, so you're not looking at the challenges, but by the time you're looking at things you're grateful for, you find that you're looking at the tools that you have in your hand already that can give you the kind of life that you need. Now, another stress mastery technique that I really do not talk about all the time is healthy lifestyle choices, right? Sleep well, eat your vegetables, exercise, and all that. That is usually the last thing I talk about. I see a lot of people, that's the first thing they do, blah, 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 but that's just on the surface. Those are just symptoms, because your inability to sleep well, your inability to eat right. Remember, I talked about cortisol and craving for the bad things, quote unquote, bad things. Your inability to eat right, your inability to exercise is a sign of something deeper. So rather than dealing on that, I'm dealing with the why. Why is it impossible for you to sleep when you ought to sleep? Why is it difficult for you to drink water? Why is it difficult for you to love yourself? Why is it difficult for you to treat yourself well? By the time we are able to answer that question, you by yourself will be able to attend to yourself properly with love and care for yourself adequately. Somebody said that, is it a one size fits all? No, it's not a one size fits all, but there is a guiding principle. And when I say it's not a one size fits all, it's all about our body, it's all about what makes us us. For instance, I'm a night owl, right? And I'm a foodie. I love food. I eat a lot. Other people don't eat a lot. Now, if I eat a lot and it doesn't affect me, I understand my body. I know how, because I know my metabolism is high. It can break it down. It can do that. So it's easier for me to take certain chances that another person can't take. Do you get what I'm saying? So I do not believe in the whole talk of starch is bad for you, rice is bad, yam is bad, sugar is bad, alcohol is bad. No. There is no food that is bad, and you can take it to the bank. And that's what I tell my guys. Even people have lost weight on that. You can eat all the cakes in the world you want, but it's all about how you're eating it. So it's not the food that's a problem. It is how you're eating it that's a problem. It's how you're ingesting it. It's what you're doing with it. So if you wake up in the morning, you want to eat eba, it's fine. If you want to eat eba at 3 a.m., it's fine. But it's also about your lifestyle. What lifestyle do you have? Are you a very active person? Are you a sedentary person? So all those things factor into all the choices that we make. So I do not believe in one size fits all. That is why, if you notice, I didn't say anything about eating your vegetables and blah, 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 because that is, it's almost like an insult to you. It's almost like I'm talking to children, right? Because an adult, once your eye is opened to who you are, to the truth about you, and you understand yourself properly and you love yourself, nobody needs to tell you that, hey, sleep 2 hours a day or sleep 4 hours a day or sleep 5 hours a day, right? So having said all that, I want to share with you the most important tool of all, which is the stress mastery tool. I call it the 4 A's, right? Now, regardless of the challenge that you're facing, regardless of the stress that you're facing, if you feel, remember I already mentioned the stress signs. Now, the stress signs are different for different people. The intensity is different, and we feel them. We can be facing the same kind of stress, but we're responding to this stress differently. My own stress sign at that point can be like I'm sweating, right? Another person's stress sign can be, serious headache. Another one can be, just all that. So the same stress can bring about stress signs, but based on that stress, what is the fundamental principle? What is the guiding tool, the formula that we need? Remember, even in mathematics, when you are giving formulas, there's no like it must be in 2 or 3. No, is it just a formula? So if you put all the numbers, you can play with the numbers. At the end of the day, you get the results that you need based on using the formula appropriately, which is the same thing here. So we have the 4 A's. So there are 2 formulas I'm going to share with you. Number 1 is the 4 A's and the BFF formula. So in the 4 A's, please take note of this. This is very important, regardless of what you're facing. Number 1 is you have to assess the situation. Assess, why is this thing stressing you out the way it's stressing you out? Why are you reacting to this thing the way you are reacting to it? Is this something that has to do with your past? Is it something that has to do with your present? Now, this involves you being extremely honest with yourself. You cannot push some things under the table and expect to have the truth see you in the face, right? Because you're already avoiding it. By the time you assess, ASSESS, that's the first one. By the time you assess it, it's easier for you to appreciate the stress. You start appreciating what the stress is doing in your life. Let's say, for instance, now the stressor at that point is traffic. You're in traffic, you have a deadline, and then you find out you're always caught in this stupid traffic on your way to work, and you're stuck in this traffic for 2 hours every day before you get to work. You're angry, you're frustrated, you're depressed, you're like mood swings all over the place, right? And then by the time you start saying, okay, why do I get stressed out this way? You start assessing it. Why does traffic affect me this way? Then by the time you start appreciating, this is the second point, which is appreciate. You appreciate what it's doing to you. It's not making you realize that, hey, I might need to start waking up earlier to avoid this traffic, because you've come to realize that I can't change the traffic. I have no control over the traffic. For over 2 years, this particular spot is known for 2-hour-long traffic, and I allow myself to get caught in it. So what do? I start planning, right? So that's the next point, which is adjust. Assess, appreciate, then adjust. So you start planning and scheduling your life in such a way that you avoid that traffic. So instead of getting, maybe the traffic starts at 10 a.m. every day, you start planning so that you get to that place at 8, and then you easily pass it. So what it means that you need to sleep earlier, right? And wake up earlier. So whatever it is you do during the day, you now have to plan and you now have to schedule. See, what I talk about prioritization and time management, so it comes in. So you begin to adjust yourself in such a way that you now assimilate that habit. Assimilation, that means that this now becomes your lifestyle. So you have the 4 A's: assess, appreciate, adjust, and assimilate. When you apply these 4 A's, it doesn't matter the situation that you're going through. Trust me, you will come back and testify. You can start it and become very intentional with it. And you see the difference that it will make in how you further approach this particular challenge going forward. Now, I talked about another formula, which is the BFF. I love this so much because it sticks in my head and reminds me of my relationship with stress, that stress exists for my good, for my benefit. Yeah. So BFF, if I were to ask you, the first thing that comes to your mind is best friend forever, right? So I say stress is my best friend, because stress has opened my eyes to a lot of things and given me what I need, because I've now appreciated it for what it is. So BFF stands for breathe, feel, and focus. Breathe. If you're going through a situation and it's stressing you out, it helps you become more logical. So instead of becoming reactionary or become impulsive, right? So let's say, for instance, somebody just slaps you for no reason. You are in the office and then somebody comes and slaps you. The first thing that comes to your mind is to get up and slap the person back. And like, who are you? Why should you lay your hands on me? But what BFF formula says, hey, breathe. So you get that slap, you breathe, you calm down. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It actually means that you're strong because you're trying to gain control of your emotions. You're trying to understand, where is this coming from? Was there something that I did that made this person come slap me, right? Let's even say there was nothing you did, but you also need to understand what is wrong with this person. Is this person normal? Your idea now is high problem solving skills. You have activated it. So that is what the breathe does. So you now feel the second one, which is feel. You now feel all the emotions, yeah? And then by the time you feel all the emotions, and then you are beginning to ask yourself, what do I need to do? Blah, 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 blah. Then it comes to you. Your solution at that point would be, I need to talk to her, but I need to talk to her not here. That's the person that slapped you. So I need to talk to her, but not here because I do not want to generate any animosity. I'll give her time. In 30 minutes, I'll go meet her and find what needs to be done. Then the last one is focus, where you actually focus on what you need to do. And you let go of your sentiments. You let go of your emotions. You let go of your ego that was bruised because you were slapped in a public place. Do you get what I'm saying? So at this point, you find that even within an office setting, if everybody was to behave like this, where will the conflict come from? The unhealthy conflict, because conflict is normal, but the unhealthy conflict, the unhealthy way we solve conflict will no longer be there because you are now more mature, you are now more logical, you are not ruled by your emotions, you're not ruled by your sentiments, and most importantly, you're not playing the role of a victim. You ask yourself, what did I do to make this happen? And when you realize that you did nothing to make it happen, then you are now concerned about the person who attacked you. Why? And always remember, there are situations that you have no control whatsoever over. So I keep saying, you do not have control over another person's reaction, another person's chosen words, or another person's whatever. What you have control over is you. So if you allow another person to influence you in such a way that you react to that person, you have lost control. So you have increased your stress level because there's a ripple effect to when you lose control. You see them happen all over the place, especially in traffic. For those of us in Lagos, we know how it works, right? So it's easy to get our tempers are high and all that. And then somebody hits your car, you get out and you do this. The next thing, who are you? Do you know who I am? Before you know what's going on, the crowd, the ripple effect, there will now be a long line of cars parked. People at the end do not even know what happened there. But because two people chose to lose self-control, right? So just to wrap up now, like I'm done really, to conclude, right? So there are three conclusions that I'm going to share with you. Number one, that stress is not your problem, but it is a vital tool that can propel you to success, right? Stress is not your problem. Stress is not bad, but it's a vital tool that can propel you to success based on your perception, based on how open you are to seeing the good side of stress. Number two, resilience is attainable. It doesn't matter how far gone you think you are in life, or whether you're just starting, or you think you are too young, or whatever the case may be, or you think you are not educated enough, or you think you are not rich enough, or you think whatever, it doesn't matter. Resilience is attainable. Anybody can become resilient. Then number three, takeaway, you only give what you have, and what you give is what you get. That is the rule of the world. What you give is what you get. So you find that you're complaining all the time. Ask yourself, why is this always happening to me? There's a vibe that you're giving out. There's an aura that you're giving out. But you know, human beings, we are not used to taking responsibility for our actions. We always like to blame something else. For a long time, it was the devil that was responsible for our problems. Now, devil pushed me. It is the devil's work. It is devil this. We could not take responsibility because it is painful to admit to ourselves that we can make mistakes, that we have the ability to make the wrong choices. No, ego issues, blah, 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 blah. So we blame other people. Now we are blaming mental health. Now it's mental health because we don't want to take accountability. And I tell people a lot of the things that we call mental health issues are really not mental health issues. They are just normal life challenges. But because we are not building ourselves up mentally to learn how to be resilient, we just say, hey, it's mental health, because we don't want to take accountability. So those are my 3 takeaways. And I hope these have helped you. And now I am open to questions because I'm done.
Okay. Okay. So this is really more than a masterclass that I'm sure Larry Olusola would have collected about 1 million for, and we've gotten all of this for free. I'm still going to go into asking questions from. I've been saying Amy Duru and also Sado. I hope I got that right. Please make it brief, Amy. Are you there? Amy,
yes, I am.
Please go ahead. Thank you very much for holding on. Thank you. Go ahead.
No problem. So you covered quite a lot of things that I kind of like, and that like you gave a breakdown of how to assess stress. But the last thing you said about mental health, that a lot of things that is mental health is not really mental health. Can you elaborate on that, please? Because I don't kind of like agree, but I want to understand where you're coming from before I.
What particular aspect of mental health, what she said, that you really don't agree with?
I get where she's going, Lady Gwen, because I've had this question asked of me before.
Let's take Sado as well. Let's take Sado.
Okay, before I answer. All right.
Yes. Sado, are you there? Okay. Please go ahead. I can't seem to. Please go ahead. Kris.
Okay, I can go ahead, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let me explain something to you. When people do not want to take accountability for issues, right? Now, this is not me discounting mental health. Let's remember that mental health is not an illness. Mental health is just a condition of your mind, right? It's just like talking about physical health. The fact that we talk about physical health does not mean that you're ill. It just means that this is the state of your physical health. So it could be negative, it could be positive, right? So your mental health on its own is not an illness. It's just the state of your mind. Now, when I say that a lot of people refuse to take accountability and blame it on mental health, it's very simple. For instance, now, talking about building resilience, you have to come, and we see this happening a lot with the Gen Zs, right? So you have to come to work and you have to abide by the principles of where you work. But because you don't want to, number one, because you are lazy, because you have not groomed yourself, for instance, to wake up early, to be disciplined enough to do what you need to do, and then you're always making mistakes, then you now say, it's mental health, I have issues, I have depression. It has become an easy way out. And we have to be very careful that you're sad does not mean you're depressed. That you're unhappy does not mean you're depressed. These are just normal human emotions that people go through and show that you are a living being. Now, the only people that can determine whether you're depressed are professionals. So there's something called clinical depression. Now, a lot of people are terrible at making choices and they don't want to hold themselves accountable. And it's very, I need to say this, you're a terrible person. Like, you just come and you bully people. Why do you bully someone? Why are you bullying? Because you have an issue that you have refused to attend to. You don't want to look at yourself like, okay, because I have low self-esteem, so I need to bring this person down, right? Low self-esteem is not depression. It's just low self-esteem. You need to build yourself and have a higher belief within yourself. Now, you don't have that. You're not willing to do the work. Then you relax and say it is depression. The challenge I have
Sorry.
with that.
Can I cut you short, please? Because what I'm hearing from you is you're defining a person who already knows what the process of accountability, awareness, and all of these things are. And I don't see human beings being born innately with all those skills to be able to process, I can do this, I have to do this. You know, people learn the process. And that's why when you said stress is a positive thing, I agree, because you can use stress to learn how to change your life around and to learn what it means to be accountable, to not live in denial. But you can't say that when a person is stressed, they innately already know what the process is and are just failing to do that. It's like you have to teach a child to ride.
You're not getting me.
Walk.
I get where you're going. But I need you to understand this. Again, as I said, I'm not disputing mental health challenges, but I need us to understand that there's a difference between one refusing to take accountability and another person having a severe case of mental health challenge. Now, for instance,
let me ask you so that because it's quite general. So when you say one refusing to take accountability, how have you been able to define and determine that one has refused to take accountability? What has given you the judgment that has said this person is just not willing or knows what it means to be accountable and has refused to?
Okay, have you found yourself in a situation where you're dealing with human beings and you know that this person obviously did something wrong? The person is lying to your face. You can see that the person is lying. And you're telling this person that I know for a fact that you're lying. And the person denies and then twists the lie and makes the lie about you. Then you find that you are the one now apologizing for that person's lie. There are people who are very manipulative, who know what they are doing.
To me. Yes, what you just explained to me is generic, and that's it. I've seen people, who have gone through stages of mental health depression, didn't even know that they were depressed at all, and because of the way our society is, where it is a case of it is satanic work, it is this, it is that, it is not of us, it is the people from the village, and all. They have become undiagnosed. So clinical depression does not even exist in Nigeria per se, because we don't even have the infrastructure to even clinically diagnose somebody with depression. So the way I see a lot of Nigerians is that you can't really tell. If you're talking about the Western world, I would say yes, they're more enlightened about these things and are able to take control and charge. But Nigeria, because of the scale, we've had people who have lived through bomb blasts. We've had people who have lived through the assassination of their parents and things like that. They will be depressed, and it could lead to clinical depression because even the government and even society has not even said, this person has gone through trauma. Let me look at what we can do to improve the lives of these people.
Can I say something? So Number one, because of time, I'm sorry, because I know where you're going. Number one, I totally disagree with you when you say that Nigeria has nothing to do. I mean, we really don't have anything when it comes to clinical, diagnosing clinical
We have very
depression.
little. We have very little infrastructure.
We do not have as much. We do not have as much, but we do.
We have only four working psychological infrastructure in Nigeria, with four working
infrastructures, but the personnel.
Can I
say something? Sorry,
hold on,
so that we can wrap up. We have four structures, as you say, but we have more than 4 personnel who are working within this field. And let us also remember that this field is not just Nigerian based, it's global. We have a lot of people who are working with us from outside, right? And when I talk about depression here, again, you're making it look like I'm belittling what depression is or
I'm not trying to do that.
What I'm trying to explain to you so that we move on from here is to tell you that people excuse bad behavior. They do not want to take responsibility for their bad behavior. It has nothing to. There are people who exhibit very great behavior, but they are depressed. But I'm talking about badly behaved people, and who feel entitled to their bad behavior. And because they do not want to take responsibility for that, they do not want to grow themselves, they do not want to build upon themselves in terms of discipline, in terms of being very productive, right? And they just relax and create havoc, and then they claim that it is depression. So that is the difference, yeah? So that it's not looking like we're having this argument. That is the difference. Bad behavior is not depression. And you cannot say that because you're sad today, that means you're depressed. It just means you're sad. But when you are sad for a prolonged period of time, then we can say that, okay, you are showing signs of being depressed, and then we can take it further. Do you get where I'm going? So that is the difference.
Not really, but that's fine.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Amy. I think this is probably a very, very great place to call it a wrap, really, because we've
more questions.
We've spent almost this is
this is 2 hours now.
Exactly. So before I let you go, I know, do you have maybe programs, master classes or something you're running? I know you're having a book launch soon that was being forwarded by the former president, His Excellency Olusegun
Obasanjo. Yes.
Could you briefly tell us about that?
Now, the book is called The Rhythm of Resilience. It's a book that shares with you lessons. There are basically 13 lessons there that everyone can apply to their lives and learn from, so that they can learn how to be resilient, so that they can move from whatever challenges that they have experienced and become a better version of themselves every day. So these lessons are packed, and then you have activities within it where you can actually push yourself, right, and enable yourself to learn the skills that you need to survive. That's what it is. So The Rhythms of Resilience is the book. The pre-order link will be up next week. 7th of April is actually when the book will be launched. So I'm excited about that. Do I have a current program coming up? Yes, I do, in March. So there is a training that's coming up in March. For whoever is interested, you can visit my website, thewellnessboss.ng. You can follow me everywhere at The Wellness Boss. Send an email to chris@thewellnessboss.ng or christhewellnessboss@gmail.com. So
right.
That's that.
Right. Thank you so much. I think, there is or there are many things to learn, in terms of mental health. We've not even talked about wheel of life. We've not talked about the gratitude listing, journaling, and all of that.
Yes.
Simple relaxation techniques and all of that. So we still have so much, but I want to believe that the much you've covered today will be very helpful. And I would like to say that from my experience with depression, I think when you were saying, and I wish Ugochukwu is here, Bamidele, when you were saying that it's not about you, one of the things I've learned to see in life is to ask myself, this thing that is happening, is it just me? And the moment you can answer that question, the moment you understand self-discovery, self-awareness and all, you begin to understand that it's not particular to you. And you begin to form a strategy to pull yourself out
of it.
Either you want to do a mind mapping and all of that, it would help. And that's why we're doing this training, to be able to get that equilibrium to forming something ahead when it comes to stress. And stress, it's like saying death is never going to happen, and that's a lie. And I think also probably we might take the fault with our spiritual leaders, who makes us to believe over time that the moment you come to Christ, or the moment you get your spirituality right with God, all your problems disappear. In the Bible, there is nothing like that. We were not promised a life that will be all through and through rosy. So the moment you have it at the back of your mind that problems, challenges are part of living, then you will start making mental and psychological, emotional readjustments. I want to thank you. Probably I should, allow Mr. Anthony Ekata to say a word and appreciation for you coming. Callistus, it's so good to have you join us today and to, say a word. Let me also quickly thank Mr. Lucky, Mr. Emeka Odiko. I know you all have been busy. Ugochukwu, thank you very much. Sado, thank you so much. I saw Mr. Durodola, Teddy Bear. I just love that name. He's been here all along. Thank you so much. Irat, you were busy, but you still made it through. Nicholas, thank you very much. Mr. Mika Okelum Okonta, thank you so much. Mr. Lucky Marcus, I called your name. Nathan Williams, Sado, I was calling your name, for you to ask your question. Thank you so much. Theophilos, Mr. Theophilos, thank you so much. And of course, Kris Moloko, thank you so much as well. Mr. Anthony Ekata, please, over to you to appreciate and send our gratitude to Coach Kris. Coach Kris is actually a certified life coach and stress expert. So please, over to you.
Thank you so much. You've thanked everybody for me already, so I have very little work to do. But I must thank Kris. I mean, all the while she was speaking, I was looking to see if she was using a teleprompter. How did you internalize all of this and then you just pour it out like that for free? I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough. I said in the morning on our platform, the BGF platform, that it is always good to use every opportunity to learn something new, not just for yourself, but because you never know who you could impact positively with what you learn. And as you were talking, I was already writing the names of people that I would give this recording to. I mean, it's just awesome. And if we were to pay for it, we wouldn't be able to, like Lady Gwen said. So she has thanked everybody. I add my thanks to hers. And I need to thank her very much because she did all the facilitation of this process, of this very training. Kris, you know how it came up, like impromptu. We had another training for today, but because of your time, you made it clear that this is the time you have for us. And we are grateful that you had to sacrifice today for us. Thank you so much. I thank Amy. Amy is actually one of the coordinators of our training series. The other one is Ugoma Koki. She is busy somewhere. These children that are always learning. She's in class. Don't tell her I said she's a child. Then I need to thank Theophilos, the only person who joined from South Africa. He was supposed to be having a management retreat for his staff today, but he said to me, no, I'll be there to support you. Thank you, Theo. You know how much I love you. And Callistus, all the way from Verona, Italy, is always with us. He used to host our training sessions, but this time it was Nicholas. Incidentally, Nicholas is my son. He hosted this one today, and I think he recorded it, and we're going to make it available. What I will do now, I've put on the chat window there 2 links. One is the one to join BGF. The second one is to have a look at some of the members. And I want to invite those who are not already with us, beginning with Kris. We'll be honored to have you be our member on BGF, so that you are close to Gwen, who is always, she's a mobilizer. So you have the links there. If you want to join us, we would be very grateful. And on that note, I thank very much those who are not our members who joined us today. I see Gochuku Banubele, I see Nathan Williams, Ado Sayaga, Lucky Marcos, and the other Emeka who came to join our big Emeka. Emeka Dipo is our mentor, and he's always very supportive. I thank God for making this possible, and I look forward to more. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony Ekata. Before we go, I'd like to let you know that probably if you're running a station or you're working in a station, whether television, radio, or even print, and you're not making as much money as you should, and things have been difficult in terms of fundraising, financial, elevation for your media outfit, please, we have a training coming up with Mr. Folabi, that's talking about the man in charge of MPS, talking about the rating, data analysis, comparative analysis of how you can use all of this to, pool agency money. We are looking at that coming up in March, and I'm sure, the training coordinator will be talking much about that. Don't miss it. It's not to be missed. Thank you very much. My name is Lady Goin, and it's been incredible. Thank you very much, Coach Chris.
Just a moment, Lady Gwen, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. She mentioned, you talked about her books. I'm sure you'll make that available to us, the whole of us.
Very,
so access that book
very well.
Of that event. And also, let me not forget to thank Ben Shemang. He was actually supposed to do the training for today on the fundamentals of reporting. He had to step aside for Kris to have the floor. Thank you, Ben Shemang. We appreciate you, and we look forward to the next session, which might be with Ben Shemang. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you. And of course, our first attendee, Mr. Ben Adam, thank you very much for staying through. Thank you all, and do have yourself a wonderful weekend, and stay safe, please, wherever you are. Thank you. God bless you.
Bless you too. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Ali, take care.
Thank
take
you.
care
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. My cousin, in case you are interested in knowing.
Thank you so much.
All right.